For more than 3,000 years, the ancient Egyptians lived under the scorching sun. With summer temperatures rising above 40 degrees Celsius, survival in this desert landscape wasn't easy, yet they thrived. Without fans, refrigerators, and electricity, how did they manage to keep their homes cool? How did they sleep through suffocating nights? How did they protect their bodies from unbearable heat? The answers lie in their architecture, their clothing, and their daily practices. These techniques were clever, functional, and way ahead of their time. They shaped one of the greatest civilizations in history. So today, we'll explore how ancient Egyptians coped with heat during the hottest days of the year. Number 1. Mud brick magic. The story of heat survival in ancient Egypt starts with the material they used for their homes, mud brick. At first glance, these simple sun-dried bricks may appear ordinary, but in a desert climate, they were truly remarkable. They were made from a blend of Nile mud and straw. These bricks had natural insulating properties. During the day, they absorbed heat slowly and kept the interiors cooler. At night, when the temperature dropped, they slowly released the stored heat, creating a balanced indoor climate. Ancient Egyptians mastered the art of mud brick construction, creating thick mud brick by mixing mud from the banks of the river with grass or straw, known as adobe, to create blocks used for building walls. Because of mud brick's ability to retain heat during the day and stay warm at night, the design is ingeniously suited for the desert environment. Walls were constructed thick to enhance their insulating powers. Many houses featured small, elevated windows to reduce sunlight while allowing for ventilation. These windows, along with flat roofs and internal courtyards, promoted air circulation. In elite homes, certain architects even installed ventilation shafts and underground cooling systems, long before the modern world thought of ductwork and AC systems. Some elite people incorporated stone, which was also used in building temples and tombs, but mud brick was the material of daily life, shaping homes, granaries, and even temple boundaries. This was not just a smart design, it was a survival mechanism. These homes were not just places to live, they were dynamic technology. In a land where the sun could bake the earth by mid-morning, homes had to act like natural shelters. These homes were designed from the earth for the earth. Today, these earthen homes are found across Egypt, from the lush delta to the oases of the western desert, such as Dakhla, where restoration projects are using both traditional and modern methods to preserve their unique properties. Number 2. Architectural innovations. In the scorching heat of ancient Egypt, catching even the slightest breeze could mean the difference between comfort and suffering. And the ancient Egyptians found a method to achieve this through a brilliant architectural feature called the malqaf. The malqaf, also known as a windcatcher, was a tall vertical duct integrated into the walls or roofs of houses. Its purpose was simple: to catch the cooler breeze blowing above ground and direct it into the house's interior. As this cool air descended, it pushed warm, stale air up and out through different vents or openings. They were generally shaped as right triangular prisms with the vertical side left open and facing directly up or downwind. They were usually oriented with 10 degrees of wind direction. Wider angles allow the wind to escape. The performance of the wind catcher was highly dependent on the position, orientation, and size of the inlet and outlet openings. What appears to be modern engineering was actually ancient passive cooling technology, entirely dependent on wind direction and air movement instead of machines. When paired with shaded courtyards or damp reed mats, these wind catchers turned homes into natural cooling systems, making it easier to survive the harsh climate. Even public buildings and temples took advantage of the same ventilation methods. Whether built in homes or bigger buildings, the purpose remained unchanged: to promote airflow, minimize heat, and survive the summer heat without using any electricity or fuel. The ancient wind catchers were early lessons in sustainability. They were proof that Egyptians understood the science of airflow even thousands of years ago. Number 3. Sleeping under the stars. When the sun finally dipped below the horizon in ancient Egypt, the heat didn't simply disappear. Thick mud brick walls, which had absorbed heat all day, gradually released it at night, transforming indoor areas into heat reservoirs. Without air conditioning or fans, many Egyptians turned to a simple but effective solution: sleeping on the roof. Flat roofs were a common feature of Egyptian homes. These roofs were made from wooden beams and topped with layers of palm fiber. They were then coated in mud. They were durable, practical, and cooler than the air indoors. With the night breeze, the roof was the most comfortable place to rest. Families would spread out mats, light bedding, or even thin cushions. Some households set up basic fabric canopies or woven screens to provide shade from moonlight. minimize insect contact, or ensure privacy. Kids, elders, and even the pets often joined in, transforming the roof into a relaxation spot as well as a shared family space. In rural areas, this tradition persists even today, particularly during Egypt's hottest months. For ancient Egyptians, it was more than just a coping strategy. For them, it became a seasonal rhythm of life, like planting and harvesting. Sleeping on the rooftop also offered a rare view of the open sky. Clear, constant, and undisturbed stars above the Nile Valley became the silent backdrop for countless Egyptian nights. This tradition highlights how closely the ancient Egyptians coordinated with their environment. They didn't depend on devices to avoid the heat. They altered their routines, redesigned their environments, and embraced the natural world despite its challenges. Sleeping under the stars wasn't just a requirement, it was a tradition based on adjustment and survival. Number 4, evaporative cooling, reed mats and water jars. In a land with almost no rain and relentless heat, the ancient Egyptians learned to use one element in a surprisingly effective way: water. They didn't just drink it, they used it to cool the air as well. This next astonishing technique helped ancient Egyptians tackle the harsh weather conditions in a remarkable way. This technique is currently referred to as evaporative cooling. The ancient Egyptians utilized it well before the science was completely understood. Ancient Egyptians would hang wet reed mats or moist fabrics over windows and doorways. As the warm desert wind moved through the damp fibers, it induced evaporation, a process that naturally absorbs heat from the surrounding air. What entered the house was no longer a hot, dry wind, but a fresher and more bearable breeze. Within the house, families often placed porous clay containers on the ground. They were filled with water and placed near entrances or in corners where airflow passed. The water would gradually seep through the pot's walls and evaporate into the room. It assisted in lowering the air temperature in the surroundings. These were occasionally combined with windcatchers to enhance the effect. These common, basic in design items transformed homes into microclimates. They turned the surroundings remarkably cooler and more pleasant, even during the hottest summer days. The success of this technique was so widely recognized that its variations are still utilized throughout North Africa and the Middle East. In various areas, individuals continue to chill fruit and drinking water in similar clay containers known as zeer pots. To the ancient Egyptians, every drop of water held significance, not only for hydration or agriculture, but also for comfort. By combining natural resources, air movement, and evaporation, they discovered a low-tech but very effective method to reduce the brutal conditions of the desert. They had no devices and no fuel. What they had was simply water, air, and knowledge. Number 5, dressing for survival, linen and light. Surviving Egypt's heat involved more than just architectural design. Ancient Egyptians not only altered their homes, they altered their clothing choices as well. The ancient Egyptians lacked synthetic materials, sunglasses, or ultraviolet protection. One thing they possessed was linen, and it was almost perfect. Linen derived from the flax plant was light, airy, and absorbed moisture effectively. It evaporated rapidly in the dry atmosphere, enabling the body to regulate its temperature naturally through cooling. Almost all people, from peasants to pharaohs, wore linen. The difference was in the quality. Wealthy people wore finer, more transparent weaves, whereas the common folk opted for thicker and basic versions. Color was important as well. The majority of garments were white or light beige, perfect for reflecting sunlight instead of absorbing it. As the sun scorched the earth, Egyptians walked through it covered in fabric that kept them cooler than bare skin could. The designs were practical as well. Loose-fitted tunics, kilts, and dresses enabled air to flow freely around the body. In contrast to fitted clothing, which retains heat and moisture, these loose items helped in temperature regulation and reduced discomfort. Accessories had a part to play as well. Wide collars and light headdresses served not only as decorations, they offered protection from the sun and ventilation for the neck and shoulders. Palm fiber sandals protected feet from scorching ground surfaces while allowing ventilation. Even kids and workers in the fields occasionally had little to no clothing on, particularly during the intense summer months. In ancient Egypt, practicality and comfort were prioritized over everything. Civilization that spent every day under the blazing sun, clothing was more than just beauty or status, it was a tool for survival. By using natural textiles and careful design, the Egyptians embraced their environment as a second skin, which helped them remain cool during the hottest days. Number 6, shaved heads and wigs. In the scorching and dry climate of ancient Egypt, hair could also be a burden. Trapping heat and sweat, it could make daily life in the sun intolerable. Thus, the Egyptians devised a bold and practical approach. They shaved their heads. For both genders, hair removal was not just about hygiene, it was also about staying cool. The shaved head enabled body heat to escape more efficiently, minimized sweat buildup, and helped in lice prevention, particularly crucial in crowded urban areas and workplaces. This was especially common among laborers, priests, and those working long hours in the sun. However, the Egyptians did not abandon hair completely. Rather, they opted for wigs, which became a cultural and even artistic staple. Wigs enabled people to protect their heads when necessary, providing defense against the sun during outdoor activities or traveling. While inside, they could easily take off their wig and enjoy the cooling effects of a bare scalp. Wigs were made from human hair, wool, or plant materials, frequently styled in intricate braids and decorated with beads or fragrances. The wealthy possessed multiple wigs and switched them based on the event, climate, or social situation. In some cases, wigs had built-in padding or ventilation spaces, making them more breathable than natural hair. This balance between style, safety, and practicality demonstrates the Egyptians' deep understanding of their surroundings. Children were frequently shaved completely, except for a symbolic side lock of hair that was manageable and easy to keep cool. Even sacred animals and temple workers practiced similar grooming methods. In a world of scorching heat, managing body temperature required considerations beyond just architecture or clothing. For ancient Egyptians, shaving their heads also became a part of their strategy for surviving the heat. From mud brick homes to windcatchers, linen clothes to rooftop nights, the ancient Egyptians mastered the art of surviving extreme heat without even electricity and machines. Their solutions were natural, effective, and centuries ahead of their time. In a world facing rising temperatures, their wisdom still speaks. Like this dive into ancient Egypt, share and subscribe for more ancient wisdom stories.